Hello, and welcome back to the Build Better Teams podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Russell. I am a strategic leadership and team building facilitator, as well as an entrepreneur. And the topic of this episode is a really important one to me. We are going to be talking all about the psychology of high performing teams and how you can instill psychological safety within your organization. Welcome to Build Better Teams, the podcast for leaders who want to improve collaboration, strengthen communication, and create real alignment inside their teams. Here we explore team building strategies, leadership development, and hands-on approaches like Lego Serious Play that help teams think, build, and solve problems together. Let's get started so you can lead more effective, aligned, and engaged organizations. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever sat in a meeting where everyone nodded their heads in agreement, only to discover later that half the room had concerns but did not voice them? Maybe people stayed quiet because they didn't want to look like they were rocking the boat. Maybe they were afraid of sounding foolish. Maybe they assumed someone else would speak up for them. Or maybe they simply didn't feel safe. The truth is, most of us are probably nodding our heads, not so much because we feel like this is happening within our teams, but that we can relate to this idea, or maybe we've sat in those seats and stepped into those shoes in our past roles. I started my career in entertainment. I worked as a television producer for many, many years, and I was that person. No matter how high up I rose in those ranks, I would sit there quietly, sometimes in meetings, being afraid to speak up, hoping that someone else would voice my concerns. And I've learned since then that that was not okay. I deserved to have my voice heard. I deserved to express my opinions on whatever we were creating together as a team. It was only when I became an entrepreneur and built my first team outside of a corporation or a studio, when I actually had my own business and I had my own employees that I hired, that I felt like I was a mother hen. I wanted to make sure everyone felt safe, everyone felt included, and that was extremely important to me. And when I was going through that is when I looked back at some teams that I had been a part of prior and realized those were not the best situations. So if you can relate, or if you are a team leader now, please continue to listen in because we're going to really dive into how you can build this safety amongst your team and why it's so important for business success. High performing teams are not built on agreement. They're built on trust. And that trust creates something that researchers call psychological safety. I really want to share why psychological safety is one of the most important ingredients behind high performing teams and what leaders can do to create it. For years, companies believed that the best teams were built by hiring the best people, the smartest people in the room, the best resumes, the highest performers, all those strong technical skills. But then Google conducted one of the largest studies on team effectiveness. It was called Project Aristotle. Researchers analyzed hundreds of teams, expecting to find that success came from exactly what they thought: experience, perfect personality types, educational backgrounds. But instead, they discovered something surprising. They discovered that the number one predictor of a successful team wasn't talent. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't seniority. It was psychological safety. Psychological safety is a belief that you can speak up, that you are allowed to ask questions, that you can admit your mistakes, that you can share your concerns, and that you can offer ideas amongst your team or to your boss without fear of punishment or embarrassment. In other words, people feel safe enough to be real, to be human. That is what people want in a team and in their work. It was Professor Amy Edmondson from Harvard Business School that coined this term, and it was her research that showed the highest performing teams actually reported more mistakes. Not because they made these errors, but because they were willing to make mistakes and talk about them together. Think about it. When mistakes are discussed, there are opportunities to learn from them. When we learn from our faults, our mistakes, That is when we can think and do better next time. Because the best, most successful teams are never going to be perfect. They are healthy teams because they are honest. Think back to teams that are the complete opposite. Teams where maybe people hesitated, where maybe you felt like meetings became performances, where employees were spending more energy protecting themselves than really contributing. I know I've been there, as I mentioned, and I'm sure you have too. There are meetings where everyone says yes in public, but then they go and gossip and disagree in private. And when that happens, a whole slew of problems develop. Not only does creativity and productivity really suffer, but innovation slows and problems remain hidden. And then people become bitter. They start talking to each other about why this solution is not going to work. So now you have people talking behind the scenes and that animosity starts growing. So now the problems are still hidden. And now you have team members who are disengaged. Eventually, trust within the team erodes because that fear of what's going to happen, the fear of not speaking up, is expensive. When that happens, everything starts to fade away and people go into their bubbles, they go into their shells, and they want to keep to themselves because that is what feels safest to them. Their team, the organization, if there isn't trust there, then that is not feeling safe. So, psychological safety doesn't mean lowering your standards. It doesn't mean to avoid accountability. What it does mean is creating higher standards and creating that higher level of trust that people on your team know excellence matters and they know that their voice matters. And when they know that, those two things can create really extraordinary teams. Think about it. Step back out of your world and think about a team. Think about a team where everyone contributes, everyone gives 100%, everyone speaks, and they are really using their skills and experience, that of which you hired them for. Think about that team compared to your current team. What are the differences? Do you feel like your current team members feel safe to come to you or other managers to talk about their opinions, their fears, their worries? If you are seeing some gaps, some holes, if you don't think there is true psychological safety in your team, let's start thinking about how you can change that. It really is possible to take a toxic team or a team where there isn't a lot of gelling and collaboration and changing that to be a team where everyone can feel safe to come together. Think about the best leader you've ever had. And chances are it wasn't because they had all of the answers, but because whatever they did, they made you feel valued and respected and heard. And you felt comfortable contributing your ideas and bringing up any concerns you might have. You felt safe amongst your team members and your coworkers to share ideas. Because of that, you probably did some of your best work. And that's why you're remembering that person right now. What's important to remember is that people, employees, they don't give their best to leaders who scare them, who intimidate them, who don't make them feel safe and worthy of contributing. Employees want to give their best to leaders who believe in them and create that safe space. As leaders, we often mistake silence from our team for alignment. If no one speaks up, we just think they're on board. Everyone agrees. But that silence doesn't always mean that. Sometimes it means that people just don't feel safe enough to disagree. And a disagreement is not a threat, it's a healthy conversation. And that's why you hire the people on your teams. You want them to contribute. They have that life and work experience, they have those skills, they have those talents. So by not encouraging them to speak up, they are just staying quiet and you're not able to fully use those talents. The goal here isn't to eliminate any tension when you have a meeting or tension amongst a group. Your goal as the leader is to create an environment where people can challenge ideas without challenging each other. And I'll say that again. You want to create that environment where people can challenge ideas without challenging each other. It's forming that respect and understanding that everyone's got diverse backgrounds and perspectives. And together, you can create better outcomes, build better teams. Ultimately, you want to create a space where everyone can share their ideas and not necessarily say that their idea is better than someone else's. You want to listen to someone's idea, acknowledge it, and then share yours. You're not challenging each other, you are challenging the idea. You are answering the question. You are giving an idea on how you can innovate and move forward. So, what can you do if you are listening and you are afraid you might have some gaps within your team and within that trust and that psychological safety might not be exactly where you want it to be? I'm going to share 4 simple practices that you can start implementing on Monday. First, you can start modeling what it looks like to be vulnerable. As leaders, we don't have all of the answers. In fact, saying, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or I made a mistake, that allows other people on your team to have permission to mess up and try again as well. If you are vulnerable, your team will feel safe to be vulnerable and try as well. Second, invite participation. Ask questions that are open ended. Ask questions and make every person on your team, every person in the meeting, give their answer. By showing that everyone is contributing, everyone will be on that even playing field. You can also ask questions to show that you are not so sure. You can ask, hey guys, what am I missing? Who sees something different than I do? Who sees this solution differently? What concerns have we not discussed yet? Those questions communicate that every voice matters. Next, you can respond with curiosity instead of judgment. And I'm sure you're not responding with judgment all the time, but just thinking about how you respond to someone's suggestion or answer or question a little differently. Come at it with curiosity. When someone shares a concern, don't punish that honesty, reward it. Ask more questions, create those creative conversations. Judgment in a meeting creates silence because if someone on your team sees you or someone else judging someone for speaking up, then they are going to be silent because they don't want to feel that same response. Okay, so those were 3 practices that you can implement. Here is the 4th. Normalize learning. Mistakes are inevitable, no matter what the field, what the industry, what kind of team you are on. But blame is optional. Mistakes are inevitable. Blame is optional. Teams grow when they examine what happened and focus on improvement instead of laying blame. Those are 4 practices that you can start implementing tomorrow or on Monday, whenever you have your next meeting. And I hope you're able to. My goal when I start working with a client and I enter that room to do team building or strategic planning, I want everyone to feel safe. I want everyone to be on that equal playing field, knowing that there is no hierarchy. Everyone is at the same level. They're starting with the same tools, and their opinion matters equally. When people feel safe, remarkable things start happening. Those quiet people in the back of the room start speaking up. Departments begin collaborating, and leaders become listeners. And then conflict becomes productive because you're on the same page. You're realizing that you are a team and you're working towards that goal together. So you just become more productive. Every day at work becomes a little bit more enjoyable, and you're working towards a goal that you can clearly see. Individuals stop protecting themselves and they start contributing to something better, something bigger. People want to matter. When they feel this way, they want to participate even more. They want to be heard. They want to know that their ideas count. And when they feel that, engagement rises. And that is what you want. That's when the trust grows and that's when performances improve. At the end of the day, your high performing teams aren't built on fear. They are built on belonging, not perfection, but trust. Not having all of the answers, but by creating an environment where people feel safe enough to ask questions, better questions. That is what psychological safety is, and how it creates just almost a ripple effect on your progress, on your productivity, on that collaboration. Psychological safety is strategic. It's a way to build your team and build your business forward. One of the greatest gifts that a leader can give isn't that certainty that they are the final word and they know all of the answers. It really is a gift of creating a space where people can bring their whole selves to the table, where instead of dreading work the next day, they're looking forward to it because they feel included. They truly feel like a member of a team. So often we throw the word team around, and you realize that maybe 10% of the people on that team feel like it's a team. That's really sad. But when you can make that number higher, when you can strive for 90, 95, maybe 100%, then you have more people who look forward to the work that they're doing. They look forward to working with their teammates, with their coworkers, and collaborating because everyone ultimately is working on that same goal. Okay, so that was my rant on psychological safety. I hope it's kind of spelled things out for you and made you think a little bit differently about the rooms that you welcome your team into, whether it's online or in person. Creating that space really allows your people to feel safe so that they can speak up, because when they speak up, ideas improve. And when ideas improve, teams thrive. All right, my friend, this is another episode of the Build Better Teams podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took some takeaways. If you have, I would love for you to leave a review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere you listen, or drop me a note. Let me know what is a problem within your team right now. I would be happy to help and happy to take your ideas for future episodes. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Build Better Teams Consulting. Thank you again for listening. I am Shannon Russell, and I will see you for a new episode very soon. Take care.